Hello friends, how are you today? I have a very interesting story for you today, and it's about the Schumann resonance chart, what is currently going on the chart, and what I think it means. And we're in a critical time. Everybody, I think, is aware of that now. And we just had on Thursday, and actually started Wednesday, unfolded by Friday, the failure of a major bank in Silicon Valley, California. Interesting, the same day that the bank began to fail, Wednesday, there was an extraordinary event halfway around the world where Russia used hypersonic missiles. And I don't know if this is something that we've seen before where it was public. It was in the papers, it was on Twitter. And so it's the first public use of this technology to my knowledge. It's been in the papers that this technology existed. But that day we saw it, that very same day we saw it in action. And so these are major shifts in terms of these are events that potentially signal major shifts in core areas of human society and of national meaning for the nations involved and for the people of the earth. So we're talking about the biggest nations among the biggest nations in the world. Let alone what's going on everywhere else in the world. And what I'm doing with the Schumann resonance, I'm using this chart as a map of human consciousness. The picture you see here is an image of the frequencies unfolding, what the data shows that the resonance looks like when you put together everything like frequencies, amplitudes, qualities, and so on. And so that's what these images are. And these images are pictorial representations of energy that exists non-physically in our environment. It's a Hertz range. A Hertz range, Hertz is a measurement of energy, and it's not able to be seen by us with our eyes, but yet we emit it. Our brain emits brain waves in our Hertz range that is the same as the pictorial images that you see here. These images that are presented on the chart are in a range of 0 to 40 Hertz, and that is the exact same range of energy as our human brain waves. Now, we are also electromagnetic beings, and we emit electromagnetic energy, and the Hertz energy here is an electromagnetic energy. So these are fascinating coincidences about the Schumann resonance that I talk about and have talked about for years now that are very interesting. And so I think it's meaningful to use this as a map of human consciousness. Now, I called this video The Guardians of Frequency, and I did that for very, very specific reasons. What you can see on this image in particular, okay, is you can see these vertical lines here. I'm going to zoom in very close, all right? So these vertical lines are not common on the chart. I've done many, many videos on these lines over the last 2 or 3 years. I call this the technological effect because it appeared to me for various reasons, which I go all through in those videos, that possibly this was a technological influence upon the chart. And there's a whole history of it coming, going, appearing, and data stopping and all this kind of stuff. But the bottom line is now here we are. And what it appears to me is that over the last 3, 4, however many years it's been, that earlier on there was a period of testing, and that the capability, if I'm right and this is a technology, that capability came online fully by 2020. That there might be different ways to use it, which I explain in my deep dive, because at different times it has looked different, but with the same basic characteristics to where it seemed to be the same technology, to me, the same effect, used differently. Now, there are other vertical lines that have appeared, and I discussed this in my recent video, Space Lasers, that look different than this, where there were different characteristics. What I notice now, and this current time period confirmed for me, it's not proof yet, but now I have enough data points where I'm willing to assert that this is a capability of monitoring frequencies, and that it's a technology. And the reason that I say that is what I've noticed, that it seems to turn on the chart and be reflected on the chart at key moments that are pivotal for our societies. And when I say that, I mean, of the globe, because all of us, there are events going on that are affecting all of us. Obviously, the last 3 years of, quote, pandemic, end quote, is part of that. So what's interesting is that I went back and I found the chart where it started. And so you can see here, see the lines there? Naturally expressing energy of the Schumann resonance tends to cover this up. Okay, so here you see the white energy here. Now, can you see vertical lines? Yes, there's vertical lines sometimes on the Schumann, definitely. But what you can see hidden behind here is it appears that same periodicity of vertical lines may be in the background. And if we look earlier, you see how these vertical lines of energy are not with the same periodicity. Possibly, no, this looks like, this really could just be more of an energy wave, although you see it a little bit here. It may be that it was like right here. This is, what day is this? This is the 6th. You really don't see it here. Okay. So this is the 5th. So this is European style dating. 5/3 means the 5th day of March. Okay, so that's what they use on this chart. Which is why normally on my charts, what I do is I will put the written out date, because a lot of people were getting confused about it who were new, and it just makes sense to do that. So what I'm trying to say here is that by March 6th, the technological effect appears to have been, in my words, turned on or in active use, so much so that it showed up visually on the chart. Okay. And then, now this time of the chart, the time zone the chart's in, and that it's printed in, is for Tomsk. And Tomsk is essentially, at the date of this chart, day-night reversal from the east coast of the United States. So part of the 6th of March is also happening in the U.S., but only for half the day, okay? So there's about a half a day lag with time from the United States of America, from the perspective of those of us who live here. So now most of my audience is from the United States, and that's where I live. So that's why I use that reference as important to me. So what happened is essentially about 2 days prior to major global events, the tech effect turned on. And it turned on before the 2020 election. And then it was on for weeks. Okay, that was intense. Normally when it turns on for events, And these are the two that are in my mind. I can't offhand remember the timing of what was going on with other times it's been on recently. But think about it this way. A bank, the banking system, all of this operates in the fairly invisible world to the rest of us of non-physical communications, of computers, of Wi-Fi, of data flow, right? And this is something that you might want to monitor, right? And the same thing with the operation of a hypersonic missile. This is something that is going to draw a lot of attention from key groups and nations in the world, both of these events. Now, we know that President Trump in the United States created the Space Force. And we don't hear almost anything about Space Force now. But if I was to guess where this type of technology could be coming from or operating from, it just gives me pause to think that could be a capability or a possibility that we, in quotes, might have, whoever we are. Because we might not just be a nation. It might be a groups of nations. It might be of nations. It might be, groups working together. So here's where I'm going to bring my personal point of view in. And up until now, I'm just talking about the details and the data. And before I give an opinion, I want to show you this. Here's today's current chart. Okay. And so we see the tech effect expressed fully, right, throughout this chart. And you see where the natural energy covers it up here. For example, this white on the chart and here, as well, the green. So it's not only the white resonance that will do that. Any very full expression, full meaning powerful, strong, in whatever ways that expresses through data behind the scenes, right? Because this is a compilation of data then presented pictorially. I laugh at myself when I talk sometimes. All right, so here, okay, so it's very interesting. The one space where in the chart for the last 3 days where you see something very unusual is here. You have the red resonance held at a frequency, like with zero alteration from that number. Okay, because this is a straight line. During this period several times. That is unusual. And if you do watch my other videos on the technological effect, you will see that this is a hallmark of it being in use, but not 100% of the time that it's in use. So this appears to be a capability somehow that I don't understand it. I'm just saying that this happens with that effect and it does not happen without it. Ding. So you also see it here. Like here it is again in yellow. Here it is again in yellow. Here it is again. Here it is again. Now, periodically, in a non-periodic way, once in a while randomly, not periodically, once in a while randomly, is there a flat line in the data? Okay, like here. Like you could say, it's a flat for a little while here and right. And could that occur naturally? Absolutely. But look at this. The extent to which this is occurring during the technological effect, to me, is not an accident. And there it is again. And now, it's really interesting because you see where most of this is occurring. It's not, well, actually there a bit in green, but it's not as prevalent. It's not as prevalent in green. It's not very prevalent in white, although it happens. Wow, look at that. Wow. Okay, I'm not going to talk about this because I don't want to... I just noticed something, but I don't want to get off topic here, so maybe I'll make another video that the data is presenting different than it normally does. Okay, so... but I don't want to get distracted. I want to stay on the focus of this flat line. What I'm saying is that during and this is the frequency range, these black charts are the data behind the images. There's also amplitude, and where I'm highlighting in red, you see the amplitude rise up to 20, and where I'm highlighting in red in the chart right now, you see the quality rise up to 26. So is it a natural effect? Is some of this a natural effect, like the quality rising or the amplitudes, and some of it's not? I really don't know. I don't know if I could even make a conclusion about this, so I'm simply sharing with you my observations. Now, let's just conclude here, and I want to say, it's my belief and feeling, and this is purely intuitive, and it's my belief and feeling, and I want to tell you that I often pray that there is a positive military, in our country that has got our backs and supporting us in ways that we don't understand, with technology, with strategy. There's other people talking about the details of these things, but if there are guardians looking out and we can even have a clue that they are there, I would assert to you that this chart, this image, is an effect of their activities. And it's funny because, what do you have here? I only noticed this once I started recording. You see here, doesn't it look like a ghost? That image of the ghost in the machine that's going around. That ghost is actually faced this way, the one that's usually shown. But here it is, looking over the past, right? Face towards the past. It's usually shown face towards the future. But how can we know the future if we do not know exactly the truth of what is occurring?